All right, we're going to bring Brenda into the chat. Hi, Brenda.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. I just kind of saw the headline and I was like, let me call in.
Okay, what did you want to talk about today? I see the little note in here is you wanted to talk about how the patriarchy benefits women and children. Tell us more.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it benefits women, especially for them to have like a good husband, because I think at the end it benefits the children. And I think children benefit the most by having their biological mother and biological father in the home. And just like men and women, they're different. So emotionally, women are more emotional and men are more logical thinkers. And I think it benefits the child to have both of those. I mean, so that's why I felt like the patriarchy is a good thing. And, I do feel like a lot of, I mean, I don't know how to say it, I guess. It seems like, of course, there's bad men out there, but majority of men do care for women and the children, and they would risk their lives for the women and children, kind of like on the Titanic or, like going to war.
Okay, so there are messages where there are families where the dynamic is not a man being emotional or man being logical and a woman being emotional. Like people are multifaceted and they have all different kinds of emotions and levels of logic and all of these things. So I don't really I don't agree that the man is logical, the woman is emotional. I think that varies family to family. And I think that's why it's important that people are able to make choices that are not heavily influenced by patriarchal values so they can find a balance in their family that works best for them.
Yeah, my
I mean,
understanding
yeah,
is
but I guess
that
I'm talking to, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, my understanding is that most of the research on this is that two-parent households are definitely like ideal for the outcomes for a child, but whether or not those are their biological parents, whether they're male and female, is kind of like irrelevant to the actual outcomes of the child. So I'm not sure how
I mean,
rooted in actual
I would
research that
disagree with
is.
that. I would disagree with that because I feel like there's multiple researches. I mean, the one that I looked at too, I think was a Harvard one. And I think like, I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like a kid has a right to their biological mother and their biological father because it does benefit the child. Like, like even I feel like there was this show that was really famous, but it's not that famous anymore. And I think it's like long lost relatives. Like even a kid who was raised in a good adopted home still searched for their biological parent because there was that need of like, who am I? Like who, like, who created me? So I think like that's where I would disagree because I feel like it does benefit the child the most to understand where they come from and have that close relationship with their biological mother and their biological father. And
But
of
that's
course,
not true of
there's
all
different
adopted
families.
kids. My stepbrother is adopted and he never met his biological parents and he's well loved. He's so close to
Yeah, I
my
mean, there's going to
stepdad.
be there's going to be those situations, but I mean, the reason Long Lost Relatives was such a famous show is because most people do seek where they come from. Like most people do want to know who their parents are, But of course, there's going to be different family dynamics where the father maybe isn't that present, so the mother has to step it up. Or even there's that statistic that shows that single dads are actually better single dads than a single mom.
Okay, so that's very and
But like the
that
ideal for the
study
child is two parents.
the ideal for a child can be two parents, but the whole problem with having a patriarchy is that
Mhm.
having a single parent household is infinitely harder. It's harder financially,
Yeah,
it's harder socially, it's harder culturally because of the patriarchy and the patriarchal values that we have in this country. It is possible to grow up in a single parent home and be a well adjusted child. It's a lot harder, but it's possible. And the purpose
exactly.
of trying to rid ourselves of these patriarchal values is to give people freedom of choice without the influence of feeling like they need a masculine figure to create a balanced life. Like there in reality, much of the things that we're seeing about people developing or about like sex lives or whatever is still so
Mhm.
heavily influenced by the patriarchy that it would be almost impossible to fully separate it. But you definitely don't need biological parents. Like there are many people who are put into foster care or the adoption system because their biological
Yeah.
parents are not fit to be parents for whatever the reason is.
But
And so
what's
why
the
would we
ideal
want
for the child? Like the
any
ideal situation for a
guardian?
child?
The ideal situation for a child is a guardian who is
Mhm.
emotionally available, who is responsible, who's able to financially, physically, and emotionally take care of the child, make them feel seen, make them feel heard,
Mhm.
um, and
So you
that
think
can be
nothing
anyone.
biological matters? Like it, I guess what I'm
It's
hearing
not.
from you is like I get it. Like there is two good parents. Like it is a like emotionally available parents and everything, and there's always going to be their one-off situations. But I mean, a lot of researchers show that the ideal situation, like the best situation for a child, is biological parents in their lives.
I
Like
mean,
even
I'd be
if it's a
happy to
single
read
mom who, huh?
if you bring a
I'm
study or
sorry.
something, I'd be happy to check it out, but that's not my understanding
Um,
of the research. I mean, and it's limited understanding, but even from just like a few quick Google searches, that doesn't seem to quite line up with what I'm seeing. But yeah, I mean, I'm happy
well,
to go
yeah, because
through stuff if you provide it, but not just going to take your word for it. But I don't think either Alyssa or I are
no, yeah.
denying
I mean,
that
you don't have
like
to.
children
Yeah,
benefit
you don't
from
have to
knowing
take
their
my word for
biological
it.
parents, or that like of course a kid who's adopted, like it
Mm,
makes perfect sense that many of them are going to want to seek out like their biological parents and learn more about where they come from.
correct.
That's totally normal, but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that that's like necessary for them to have a happy healthy life, right? Like if we're seeing that kids are happy and healthy in both households, then it's clearly something else that is not related to necessarily the family dynamic that is leading to those healthy outcomes, right? So I think we're trying to advocate for, let's reinforce more of those things that are like objectively leading to those positive outcomes for the kids, and not hold on to things that are sure like culturally relevant and emotionally salient to human beings, like who want to be around like our
Yeah.
close family and stuff like that. But just to say that like that's not
Correct. But
necessary for a kid, right? To have like a healthy, happy
I
life.
mean, I feel like I mean, I would ask you guys to do your research on that. I will do I'll try to look more into it. But I feel like what I've seen, and even in like a child has the right to know where they come from, because let's say that child. I mean, shouldn't you know who your biological mother or biological father is? Because what if they have diseases that you're not aware of? Like, what if cancer runs in the family? What if something
Well,
runs in
what
the
does this have
family?
to
Shouldn't
do
that
with
child have?
what does this have to do with the
Well, I'm just
patriarchy?
saying
This
that
just sounds like a conversation about like
well, because the
knowing health
patriarchy. What
information
is the
about your
patriarchy? I guess for you, well, it's not
the
really.
patri-
I mean, it's. I,
the
I guess the
patriarchy
patriarchy
is
is that it benefits the children.
I don't think that those things are connected to biological parenting. I think there's a
Uh-huh.
lot that comes in between that. The patriarchy is a system that favors men and prioritizes their needs through and through. Um, so I don't know. I like being a biological parent or being not a biological parent. I don't really think that they're that related.
Yeah, I know. Of course, I think
Because
I was going more into. Huh?
there's also people who are surrogates, like let's say it's like two
Mhm.
women in a marriage, they decide that they want to have a sperm donor, and like why would it matter that that person, that child knows who
Mhm.
their father is? Like what difference does that make if they're still growing up in a two parent household and it's two women that are raising them? Why would they need to know what their biological parent is like beyond health stuff? Like health stuff is whatever, it's medical, and usually when you go through like a sperm donor or whatever, they give you that information anyway.
Yeah.
But beyond
Mhm.
that, I don't really think it matters very much.
I think that's the problem that happens though, is that we end up in these situations where now kids are being created without their biological parents. And I understand like this all started because women, it was sad that they couldn't when women couldn't get pregnant, And now we're in this whole new world where I think in India, I think it was banned because so many poor women will rent out their wombs for cheap, and it kind of becomes this moral issue of like, is this okay? Because, at the end of the day, like, wouldn't you agree that a child has the right to know both parents if,
Has the
like
right, maybe,
especially if,
but that's irrelevant to whether or not that's
yeah.
what's best for their well-being,
No, and I think
or
that's
that
important for me. And
the patriarchy is like the best
mhm.
system to provide for people in that way.
Right. It's like
It's not
Well, it
relevant.
provides the best system for
I
women,
also
and for children.
I don't think that's true. If how is it possible that a system that is built to prioritize the needs of
Mhm.
men is the best for women?
Because wouldn't men like sacrifice themselves easier for women and children?
They have repeatedly
Like,
shown
wouldn't
us over and over again that they don't want to do that. They don't want to protect us. We see that because they overturned Roe v. Wade. We see that because there is still a gender pay gap. Like we see it over and over again that they are not prioritizing our needs. Even something as small as like a pink tax, the fact that we pay more for exactly the same product that would be made for a man because it's being marketed to a woman. Does that sound like a system that is working well for us? Like I agree that in like that there are families that benefit from two-parent households, but I don't think that that means that that one has to be a man, one has to be a woman, and that's the best system for them to grow up in. Like I know a handful of people who are raised
Mhm.
by two women and they're wonderful. And honestly,
Yeah, I
more
mean, they're
emotionally adjusted than most people I know. I think, I mean, and this is anecdotal, but like I remember recently, I had a dinner with a bunch of girls, and I don't know how this came up, but it was kind of a half joke. And I asked who their problem parent was. 'Cause everyone has one, and
mhm.
and many times it is our dads. Like our relationships with our dads are hard because the patriarchy affects everyone. It's my dad too.
Yeah, I
It
mean, I
affects
think that
everyone.
and the best, I mean, the thing is that it's not just all about men, but women also complement men. Like men and women working together make a good fit. Like, it's like I said, like, and the only reason,
Sometimes.
about the children, I just feel like, I mean, I don't know, maybe I think that's something that, I feel like is just natural. Like, that kids deserve, like you guys even said that, sure, like they deserve the right to know where they come from. But like even with Roe versus Wade, Victoria Woodhull, who was like one of the first women to run for president, she was very big on abortion and it never went through until men started allowing for abortion to be legal. Like,
But
so it's
right,
kind of
but
like
that's
even we had to
because
wait.
we
That's
have a
Uh-huh.
patriarchal system where women didn't have rights and they had to be granted by appealing to the patriarchal system, right? Like if we didn't have patriarchy, women wouldn't have had to plead with men to
yeah,
get the
to
right
have
to
men do it.
abortion.
But but that's the thing is that men are trying to also protect women and children by saying abortion is not healthy for us. The
But
ones that
that's
push for
factually not
abortion,
true.
It's not true. And
I mean, at the end,
it's
you're ending a
also
life.
yeah, but you're ending a life that you didn't want. You are if you are holding a if you are the person
Hmm.
who's going to be responsible for growing this life and you
Yeah.
don't want it, then it is your right as a human being to not participate in that. And it's also we
But
earlier
who gave us
in this
that
show
right?
we
No
Yeah.
one.
gave us
No
the
one's
right
been
to do what?
demonstrated to have given us that.
Right.
You're
Well, Roe
It's
versus
also
Wade passed, so we were able to have abortions,
Oh my bad.
for a
I
very
thought
long
you were
time.
trying to do some appeal to like God ordained right. So that's my bad.
Oh no.
um we were talking earlier in this show that
Uh,
we were talking about how um, the conversation that Republican folks often have, oh my gosh, often have around trans women. Actually, like a lot of
mhm.
the times, doesn't have to do with trans women themselves. They're just looking for a boogeyman. They're looking for an enemy. They create a problem so that they can solve this problem that is kind of fake and that they made up. So it's similar thing with abortion sometimes where they decided to demonize something that is a medical procedure, one that should be a private healthcare choice that an individual can make on their own. They decided to get their hands all up in that and create a problem there that did not exist. And then when they created this problem that didn't exist,
Mhm.
that abortion is dangerous and abortion is bad and blah blah blah, then they also created a way to like fix it and not fix it and fix it and not. It's like they created an issue and a conversation that actually didn't need to exist at all because it's actually not their business. And for
I mean,
much
but
of
I
the
think the
time,
reason it exists is because we're talking about a life. Like, like I live in Oregon, and I know in Oregon, I think we have up to, there's no limits here in Oregon. And I mean, just in
mhm,
Oregon, like I know that the percentage is small of third term abortions. It is small, but just in Oregon alone, it was over I think 225 abortions that were past like 28 weeks.
Good.
So that's just in Oregon, and
Genuinely,
that's how.
genuinely good.
Huh?
Like, I don't care if it's a almost fully formed baby, if it's a grown ass adult,
Mhm.
or if it's a newly developing fetus. It does not have the right
Yeah,
to use
no,
somebody
and
else's
but
body
that's
without their consent.
uh,
That is
but that's the
by
thing.
saying that, you are giving fetuses special rights that you don't apply to anyone else in society.
But that's the thing is like my point is that you guys don't care. So what is wrong with people that do care?
There's nothing wrong with people who don't care. If you don't want to have an abortion because you think it's morally wrong,
don't get
then
one.
don't get one. I
Don't get
support your
one.
right to
But
not get an
that's
abortion.
like,
But
but
by
wouldn't that
banning
be like my neighbor
abortion, Brenda,
abusing?
hold
Huh?
on. But by banning abortion and preventing people who want to get abortions or need to get abortions for medical reasons from getting them, you are enforcing your worldview on them. By having abortions be
Yes.
legal, we are not enforcing anything on anyone.
And
But I think we
also
have laws for a
having
reason. Like,
banning
huh? Go
banning
ahead.
abortions does not have the effect that you think it does. There are not less abortions. There are not fewer abortions when we ban abortions. There are statistically around the same amount.
Mhm.
They're just not done safely anymore, which means we are not only putting the mother's life in danger, we're also taking part in, now we've not only have we put the mom's life in danger, sometimes the abortions don't even work when they're not safe. So like, why? Like, what is the reason? Just allow people to make the choices that they want to make. What actually factually works to have fewer abortions is comprehensive sex education, teaching
Yep.
people how not to get pregnant. And for some
Yeah, I think
reason
that.
in conservative
Uh,
states we don't do that. In conservative states, over and over again, we see abstinence only education. And over again, we see high rates of teenage pregnancy. We see high rates of STIs. And then these people are basically put in a situation where they're given no information. Then they get pregnant, and then they're not allowed to have an abortion. You've trapped these women or these people, these birthing people, you've trapped them in a situation where they're going to have to, it's forced birth. Why? When you could have just
but
given
don't you
them the
think
information.
in like the best society, we should always care for those that are vulnerable? Like if my neighbor is abusing their child, I can't just be like, well, I wouldn't abuse my child,
Except for poor
but
pregnant
No,
they
of
women,
can do
course,
right?
that if they
but
want
that's
to. About what?
right. Yeah.
Sorry?
What about the
You're
pregnant woman?
saying, you're saying, yeah, go ahead.
Well, with the
At what
pregnant women, like,
point,
yeah,
and
I
at
can
what point,
understand that. Oh,
but at
go
what
ahead.
point in this whole in the course of a person's pregnancy does the importance of the life that is being saved go from the pregnant person to the baby? At what point in that entire like
Well, because
timeline? Because that's what we're
even in
doing.
late even in late term abortion, like the baby does feel pain. So should we not care for that child
late
that's
term
feeling pain,
abortions
or is
late
it
term
out of
abortions
sight,
are
out of mind?
late term abortions are like I think it's 99% of the late term, actually not even 99, I'm
Uh,
fairly certain 100% of the late term abortions that happen are out of a medical necessity. The baby would not survive if it were attempted to be born. There is
so why not just deliver
a
the baby?
because the baby's not going to survive anyway, and it might be a danger to the
But it's not
mother.
going to survive
why should
anyways in
why should a
abortion. That's what I'm
mom
saying.
Yeah, but why should a mother have to carry a baby that she knows is going to die inside of her? Why should she have to go through that? That's traumatic. You want her to go through the process of
Mm.
labor for hours and hours to give birth to a dead baby? Why? Why not just
Well, that's
void the
where you're incorrect.
pregnancy?
Yeah. Could I
No, I
explain something
promise
real
you,
quick? Because
Brenda,
I feel
I'm
like,
not. Late term
uh,
pregnancies are not a thing. They are not a thing the way that
I
it is
know.
in the pro life community. They are not a thing the way that they
Yeah.
are like talked
And
up to
all I'm,
be.
yeah. Well, what I want to say is that, like, you made a really good, like, you said that why would the woman want to go into labor for hours and hours to deliver a baby that's not going to survive? But the thing, Alyssa, that you're forgetting is that in a late term abortion, it is going into labor. You're just having a dead baby already. So the woman still has to go through all those hours of contractions because the baby still needs to come out. So why
Okay,
not just
but
deliver
in
the
a late
baby?
term, well, you're telling me that they are delivering the baby.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that's
Correct.
So are they
necessarily
delivering the
true.
baby?
Yes.
Yeah, are they
So
delivering the baby or are they
how does
not
a woman
delivering the
who has
baby?
a full term baby, how does the baby come out?
A
You can have
full-term baby, it's labor.
Yeah.
Brenda, this is the thing though. This is
Yeah,
the thing.
exactly.
We're
So you're
getting
still
in the
going into
weeds of
labor.
this, and at the end,
Uh,
but you're talking about a fully developed baby. When I'm talking about a
correct.
late-term abortion, those happen out of medical necessity because the baby will not survive. People don't do
So
late-term
why not
abortions
just
because
let
they just
the
want to
baby
have.
still has to come out
Brenda, we aren't their
regardless, even if it's
doctor. We aren't that individual. We don't know every single medical situation that's going on. There
This is
may be
why.
perfectly good, very important reasons that that doctor decided
Yes.
this is the best course of
uh,
action that you have no
And
well,
idea
there's not
about.
that many doctors that would do
yeah.
it. I think
And that's
recently one of the
exactly,
5 clinics that was open closed down. So
no doctor would do it unless the
uh,
baby will not survive. No doctor will do it. I can, and if they do,
mm, they'll
that's
do it
not an
for like
ethical
Down
doctor.
syndrome. I mean,
No, they
do you
will
guys think
not.
Down
No, they will
syndrome is
not. That
some?
is not
Yes, they will.
true.
In
That's
Oregon, they
not
will.
true.
It is true. In
They
Oregon,
will
there was a
not.
total of
Not in late term.
225.
Not in late term. Not in late term. They will
'Cause
not.
well,
I
what is
promise
late
you
term?
they
I
will
guess
not.
for you.
And Brenda, hold on a second, because the problem that
Uh,
I'm having with this conversation is we're getting in the weeds of late term. We're getting in the weeds of
mhm.
what abortion is when it is past a certain point, if they have to go through labor. The whole point of this whole conversation is I actually don't care because I'm not a medical professional and I am not
Exactly.
the person who is request. Right. So why are you are not a medical professional either. Why are you getting in other people's business? It is not your
Because
business to get in.
people should always care about those less, like the most vulnerable in our community, which is
Stop. Nope. I'm going to
children,
stop you
the
because you said this
elderly.
before. I'm going to stop you and mute you because you said this before and this pissed me the fuck off. You're like, oh, people should care about the vulnerable in their community. That's why we should care about unborn fetuses, except for the fact that you are demonstrating by getting into this conversation that you don't give a fuck about the women who are in the situation, who are often poor or disadvantaged in plenty of other ways, who are going to be dramatically affected negatively by being forced to go through with this the way you are advocating for them. You're talking all big about how you care about these lives. You don't care about the lives who are actually here presently today who would be affected by these decisions. It's so hypocritical.
I mean, I think I don't know if I'm muted. Sorry.
You're back.
Oh, well, that's the thing. That's why it is important for, to let people know what the outcome of sex is. It can create the life because the life doesn't just, it just doesn't come out of nowhere. Like, in most abortions, I think it is most abortions are under 13 weeks. And I mean, in most of those, it's not a medical reason. It's just kind of like an oopsie. And I think it is important to let people know that, sex, there is an outcome of a child. And, as women, it actually hurts us more. Like my mom always told me, like, because I had a child in my teenage years, and she would always say, like, the women have it the hardest. Now we are responsible for this child more than the man, because the men have it easier. But,
Do you
the
know the
best thing
reason
that my
why
mom
that
did for me is she
do
lifted
you
me
know the
up and
reason
didn't make
why
me
that
feel,
yeah. No, sorry, go ahead. Your mom, what your mom is saying is really lovely and really sweet. And the reason your mom says this and the reason your mom is saying men have it easier, women have it harder, women are going to have to work so much harder is because of the patriarchy you want to protect.
Yes.
it's not because of the
That is
patriarchy, it's
what the,
because of the men that we choose. The men that we choose
Oh,
to
so it's the
create these
women's
lives
fault
with.
for picking bad men, is what you're
It's not
saying.
just the
That's really
women's
fucking
fault.
gross. That's
It's
actually like
not just the women's fault
reprehensible.
because it's both. Like, why? It's like, it's
How is it
both
both?
situation. Like,
How is it both?
because
If women are getting into
the
relationships with men who are abusive, that is not the woman's fault. That's so fucking insane.
and
but
also
even women
if
who
you're
are in
talking about
abusive
even
relationships,
in your circumstance, Brenda, you were a teenager. How were you supposed to know what man would be worthy what man would
exactly,
be able to step up to? You were a child. How are you supposed to know? How is it your
exactly. You're not.
responsibility to know which man was going to be the right choice for you? That was not your responsibility. That was his. Just as much like you took part in
No, it
that
was
in the
both of
sexual
our
activity.
responsibilities.
It is,
But
but
that's the
you're
thing
giving
is
him a
that,
pass.
that's where, like my mom would always have to remind me, like, you can't make a 16-year-old boy step up and be this man. Like now you have
But
to work
you can
with
make a
him and you guys
16-year-old
both
girl, but you can make a 16-year-old girl step up and take care of a child?
not to step up, but at the same time, I had her help and I had people that around me, a community. I mean, I was very thankful for our school actually allowed, I don't know if you guys know about the program Young Life, and they really helped me out because I got pregnant again right away, so I'm like 16 and now 17 and pregnant again. And it was like this community that I needed to lift me up because, that's what we needed as women is we need other women to tell us like, we got this, and to make better choices also in these men that we're choosing to, sleep with, because at the end, the women, unfortunately, the women
Who's
carry
telling
the
men not
child.
to impregnate women?
Who's telling men to use a
Well, men
condom?
should also be told that too. Yeah, men should also be careful on who they get pregnant. Because even like right now, I think there's this NFL basketball player, NBA player, who has like 5 kids. And right now he's like, whoa, how did this happen? And at the same time, those women, I think he's trying to take them to court or something like that because he feels like they purposely got pregnant from him to get money out of him. And
Do
so
you
at the
wanna
same
know
time,
what
men and
system
women,
the system that he is playing off of, the reason that he is able to have the balls to have that conversation publicly is because we are in a patriarchal society. Because he is an NFL player. He views himself as, he knows he has money, he knows he has status, he
he's
knows he's a
NBA,
man, so
yeah.
he can say the things that NBA, sorry. But
Yeah.
he knows he has all of the advantages in the world. He can do actually whatever he wants. He can have sex with a million girls.
You don't
He
think the
can get them
women
all
that,
pregnant if he wants to. He can get pregnant. He can
but what
knock
if,
up as many girls as he wants to. And then at the end of the day, he can somehow sue them and tell them that it's their fault. Like it wasn't
well, no, because
the
he's not going to,
sperm that came from his
I think at the,
penis unprotected
mhm.
to get these women pregnant. Like he is
Well, yeah,
just
because
as
I
much
think the
at
women,
fault.
I think if I'm correct, I'm not sure, but I think the woman was like 37 and he was like 23. And he was kind of like, hey, because women can also, just like men can be bad, women can also be bad. And we also have bad,
Of course.
like we can also abuse the system, like,
Of course.
but at the end, I feel like men and women, we both have roles. And if we work together, it's like a company. They need everyone to work together. And I feel like in the end,
But patriarchy isn't men and women working together. Patriarchy is men getting to decide what everyone does, and the women have to go along with it. What you're talking about, working together, that's egalitarianism. That's equality. That's feminism. That's what we're advocating for. You're the one who's calling in to say that patriarchy is
But even
good
with
for
equality,
women.
like I wouldn't want to go to war. I wouldn't want men to make me go to war because I feel
I don't
like
think
who's going to
anyone
raise
should go
my
to
kids
war.
better?
Yeah, I don't think.
But that's
I
the
don't
thing.
think
That's
anyone should go to war.
unrealistic. But
I don't
that's
think it is.
unrealistic. I feel like if there was
Do you want to know the
war,
reason
would
why?
you feel like
You
there?
want to know the reason why it would be unrealistic? Every
Mhm.
single war that has ever existed, literally ever, was started by men. Every single one of them. Every single one.
But would you say that if there was war, would you be okay with it being equal between men and women?
I
I
don't
don't think
know.
that anyone should be drafted. I don't think anyone should be serving. I think it's a highly manipulative
But
system. I don't think that
Alyssa,
any
let's say
part of
there
it is
has to be,
necessary.
because there
I
is
Does
a
there
no,
draft. There
have to
has been
be?
I
drafts,
disagree. I disagree with it as a whole. I would never agree to a draft ever.
Correct. I don't
Ever,
agree with
under
it
any
neither. But
circumstance.
if there
No,
is,
it
though,
does.
like there
But
has been
but
in the past.
but that's like saying if we had to all volunteer, which of us were going to volunteer to euthanasia. It's like I don't think that's right. So I can't take that hypothetical seriously because I don't agree that a
It's not a
draft should even
hypothetical though,
happen.
because there has been a draft.
I know, and I didn't agree with them then, and I don't agree with them
Exactly.
now.
We don't agree with, or even like, okay, let's say something more in history, like Titanic. Do you think it was right for them to choose women and children to go on the boat, or
I
you think
don't
it should have
know.
been equal?
I don't
I don't
know.
even know what that
I,
question is. I like, or what it's supposed
yeah,
to
Well,
I don't
elucidate.
know.
it's because you said it's all about being equal, and I just feel like in a
I
patriarch
think that
system, men
that's
still need women also to, help them out. It's kind of like we're working together. But in the,
yeah, but
I feel like I don't know it is that men,
If we're all
you know,
working
are the
together
leaders.
though, but men it's so funny. I was just thinking about this earlier today that men talk about how they have great leadership skills. I have seen over and over and over again,
Mhm.
the men around me have no idea what their child's doctor is, have no idea what
Yeah,
some of their
I agree with
extended
that.
relatives. Do you know how many times I've seen the women in my family tell other men the names of their their family members, their extended family members? They run through that all
Yeah.
of that in the car. They have many times men go to work, they come home, that's their
Mhm.
role. How is that being a leader? I'm confused. Women do infinitely more labor infinitely more labor and
Well,
are
I mean,
severely underpaid. So I don't really I'm hard pressed to find a time where a man actually is an effective leader more so than a woman. Because a woman traditionally in a traditional
mhm.
home is the one who is raising an entire generation. Women raise generations, not men. Women raise the children.
I mean, together we raise a good, together we do raise, you know, the next
But
generation. But like even how you said, like men do
in
forget,
a
like
traditional home,
mm,
in a traditional home, who is the caretaker of the children?
in a traditional, I would say the women. So that's why the woman is more aware of birthday parties, doctors, like what's going on and all that. And even scientifically, I don't know if I mean, I have read this before, but I think even scientifically, women something about both sides of their lobe and retain information better than men. And men naturally only one side of their lobe retains information. So like just scientifically, women do hold more information easier, like for them, remembering a kid's birthday party, Mother's Day, all of that comes easier to women than it does to men. That's why I
So
feel
then
like if we go back,
why do you think that they're good leaders?
because
I
we're
haven't seen that study, so
emotional.
I don't
I
know.
mean, you wouldn't even because I think
You
we
don't
as
think men are
women we're emotional.
emotional?
Even
Have you ever seen a man punch a hole in the wall when he gets angry? Men are so fucking
but
emotional,
even
uncontrollably emotional.
It
but are you
consider
talking
that
about most
anger
majority of men are like
yes,
that, or are we
consider
saying
that
that there is good men also?
anger is an emotion.
Mhm.
Then
Yeah,
really
I'll.
rethink if you think that women are more
Mhm.
emotional than men.
Sure, there are good men in the world. I don't know. The majority of men that I've known have definitely
Mhm.
some deeply repressed anger issues that they are like unable to like really wrestle with. But obviously there are good men out there. Nobody's saying that like all as we're sitting here talking about like we're advocating against the patriarchy and feminism, we're not saying that all men are terrible or all men are like cruel and manipulative. Like I,
Exactly.
but it doesn't mean but it's
That's
like
why
we're talking about the systems of power, right? Not individuals. Like when we're
yeah.
debating the systems and then you appeal to individuals, that it feels a little dishonest to me because like it's like shifting the topic, right? Like down to individuals versus like how the system affects people.
Mhm.
No, I think we should always, as a society, push for better men and better women, and especially better men in leadership roles. But I feel like for women, I feel like there is this truth that we are more emotional. Like that's why the abortion situation, like the whole abortion topic, is because we feel for the other women. We feel for that woman that is in a situation that she is not happy with because her baby daddy left her, like we're in that situation. Women are more emotional. I think even with Planned Parenthood, I think there was like saying that when girls go in there with their partner, and if their partner says, "Don't do it, I'll take care of you," the woman's emotions change right away, and she is emotionally happy, and she's like, "Thank you for thank you for saying we got this." And I feel like for a lot of women, we are emotional, and I think like for Alyssa's point of view and your
But
point of view,
what's
I feel like
wrong
with
with
abortion,
being
it's all out of sight,
emotional?
out of mind. What? Sorry.
What's wrong with being emotional? Because you can be
It's not nothing's
emotional
wrong, but that's what I'm saying. That's
and
why we
still
work well
make
with men.
like
That's why we
balanced
could.
decisions.
Yeah, no,
You can be
it's fine.
emotional and empathetic, and I think it makes you a better leader.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. Like I feel like there's nothing wrong with being emotional. It's just that's how women are. We are, genetically. I don't even know if that's the correct word, genetically, but we're like, made to be more emotional, more caring, more loving. That's why we're more in those roles of nurses, teachers, because we have that in us.
I
And
don't know if
even,
there's actually
I don't
strong
think that.
evidence to suggest that that is a biological thing as much as that that is a socially and culturally reinforced thing.
Well, I feel like for not just now in the new century, but even in the past, haven't women always been that nurture for children?
I mean, women.
You know,
Sorry, go ahead, Alyssa.
they've been as a result of a culturally, like, that our culture built that system that
Mhm.
women were going to be the ones who were emotionally
I mean, no,
nurturing
because I feel like
children.
I think it's natural for the child to feel more comfort with the mother. Like, there's like this beautiful bond that a mother and a child have because it's in our nature to have that with our children. And men, even like women, like what do you think about this statistic that it shows that men, you know, are better single dads than women? Should the courts kind of switch it up and be like more men should get the children instead of the women? Because in most divorces, the woman gets the children. But studies have shown that more children die under the hands of their mother than with their father.
So I did some research into this after you mentioned it the first
Huh?
time. The only reference to that specific thing that I can find is from a Medium article. When you click the link to the studies that it shows, it goes to a
Of
website
what?
called fixfamilycourts.com, which is specifically like a men's rights website. So I don't think that's a reliable source. The other thing that comes up is a Pew Research thing that talked about success of single father homes and largely attributes it to the fact that the pay gap, the pay difference, that men are making more money as single fathers. And so they're able to provide more for their children. So that would
Well, I
probably
know,
be
like,
a massively attenuating factor. It's not like the biological thing that is causing like single mothers or the children of single mothers to like kill themselves or whatever. It's circumstance, which perfectly makes sense because, I mean, when we're looking at single
so
mothers and the things
men
that they have
provide
to do to
better.
turn money, well, yeah, I
Uh,
mean, they make more money easier because we live
yeah.
in a sexist patriarchal society that rewards men for less work.
I'll look into that, but I feel like for you, you're even denying the simple fact of kids needing their biological parent. I feel like you were kind of giving me pushback on that one, where I kind of feel like that's like a natural right that the child has. So I feel like
But there you just did a
the
switch
ideal.
again. I Nobody is
No,
objecting
because
to the
you're.
right of children to want to know
Uh,
their biological parents. We're objecting to the need that it is a necessity for the well-being of the child.
Correct. I feel like you're kind of. Maybe I'm wrong. I feel like you're agreeing with me, but I don't know.
Kind of, but you're doing this like little bait and switch thing where
Yeah.
you're like, oh,
Okay, sorry, I didn't know. I was like, I don't know if you're agreeing with me or you're test. Sorry, I was like, I don't know if it was a test,
no, no,
but I was
no.
like, yeah, like
You
that's what.
said you feel like we're pushing back on that kids need their children, their biological parents. And
Yeah,
correct, we are
yeah,
pushing back on that. But then you said like, oh, that they would have the right to like know their biological like parents. And that's what I was talking about is the bait and switch. I agree that they have a right if they want to
hmm
meet or
yeah, and
find
I'm
out
glad.
anything about their biological family. I'm objecting to
Yeah.
whether or not biological parents are a necessity for the well-being of a child.
Well, I don't know. I feel like women and men have different roles, and I think those different roles can benefit that child. I feel like I'm more like how Alyssa said, my husband forgets a lot of things, and I'm more like, oh, this, But then he also gives me the ability to provide for me, so I can take care of my kids. And not everyone has that benefit, like how because I've called in the past, and like I've mentioned, like I grew up in foster care, and like I didn't get that benefit, but I saw that I saw that there is something beautiful when two parents work together and raise their kids together, and even me in foster care, they would talk to us. They wouldn't talk to us, but like they would talk to the moms a lot of the times about like how it affects, like, because when you go into single mom too, another thing that's not really talked a lot about is the mom, like, kids do tend to be more abused without when one biological parent is missing. So let's say the mom gets a boyfriend, it is a higher chance for the child, boy or girl, to be abused by that non-biological parent.
Well,
I
yeah.
I
Sorry.
I would have to see that to know, but I think, Brenda, at the end of the day, if the balance that you find in your household works for
Mhm,
you, no one's trying to convince you that it doesn't work for you. But
mhm,
there are plenty of households where a man is a stay-at-home father and it is a successful,
Yeah.
well-running household, but that is not what the patriarchy is vouching for. So and part of the reason is because typically because of the pay gap, because women will work more and
Mhm.
get paid less, many times that is a result
But
of the patriarchal system that we're in. So ultimately, if we can fix this system, have women be paid the same, have women be respected the same way, have equality, and allow people to choose the life that works best for them, that's what we're advocating for. We are advocating for
but even
everyone
with
being
the,
on an equal
e- e-
playing field and choosing the
I
life
feel
that
like
works
even
for
with the
them.
pay gap, though, you're missing the fact that a lot of women tend to not like call out more because I work in an environment with all women, and I mean we have one only the manager who's a male, and I mean he's on us for always calling out, because we have kids or we want shorter hours, and and I feel like
Right, but
men
Brenda,
naturally can work
but
longer.
that's part. Okay, so that's it's crazy that you bring that up because that's part of it. Women are the ones who are calling out of their jobs. Where's their husband? Their husband can't call out of their job? No, because it's the expectation of the woman to literally leave her job, leave her career to take care of
Alyssa,
children
though,
when she has a partner.
I don't think it's the
Why can't
exception, Alyssa.
someone
I
else
think
do
it's the
that?
natural. It's natural for women to want
But
to be
it's
home when their kids are
See,
sick.
this is the thing
Men
is
don't
you
have that.
keep reducing it to this like biological essentialism thing. And I just don't think you have any actual foundation to support that sort of belief. And that's why what we're saying is again, we totally
Like right
support
now,
your right to have the relationship structure you have. And we totally support your right to never get an abortion. We're just saying
but you even
we want
said
a
you
societal
like.
structure that doesn't
Mhm.
force women into those things. That's all that we're advocating for.
So you're saying that there is no difference between men and women. That's kind of
No,
what I
that's
get from
not what
you.
I'm saying at all. Like
There is then.
there's a difference between saying that like things tend to happen at like a statistical rate and that things are like necessarily related to biology, right? So like it's fair to acknowledge that like women tend to like most of the time be shorter than men, right?
Care for the
But
child.
it would
Yeah.
be biologically essentialist to say that women are always shorter than men. So I'm saying that sure, do we acknowledge that like women have like different styles of interaction with people? Like absolutely, but I don't think you can say
Mhm.
that it is necessarily because of being a woman or because of their biology that that is the case.
Well, I mean, I just did like a quick Google, like the difference between exists between men and women, and I mean, I would have to go into it, but just that says yes that there's difference between men and women with
Statistically,
biological and
yes.
psychological aspects.
But it's again,
So I feel like
this is
it's
actually a
not.
logical fallacy. This is like a formal logical fallacy. Um,
Uh,
it's often referred to as like the ecological fallacy or like the fallacy of division, where it's saying that something that is true of a population, like something that tends to
mhm.
happen statistically in populations, is necessarily always true of the individuals within those populations. It's just not true. Like, yes,
Yeah,
we can look
I
at
guess
that
where I'm.
biological men and women have different things on average
Yeah.
at trends. Nobody's denying that. Like that is just
Mhm.
obviously true. But it's the problem that I have
Yeah.
is when we start to say that it is necessarily true, right? We essentialize those trends down and suggest that all women have to like conform to those things.
I mean, there's just some. I mean, I guess there's just some things that are. I feel like we have to at the end, like always acknowledge the truth. And I feel like there is a truth between like how Alyssa was saying, like it's not like an exception. Like it's not like the mom has to go take care of the child or the man wouldn't if the woman asked. It's just that it's our nature to care for our sick child and to want to be home with them. We
But I
have
think
something
it's
inside
we're
us.
socialized. We're socialized to feel that way. Not every
So are
woman
you denying
might
then, Alyssa,
feel
that
may
nature, that nature that women have inside of them? Do you feel like it's a
I
lie?
am I don't think that if someone feels called to do those things, they are welcome and encouraged to do whatever they feel comfortable with. But I think that we are also this is what I was saying before about when we have these
Mhm.
conversations, we're
Yeah.
looking at people who have lived their entire life in a patriarchal system. So they have been socialized to believe that it is a natural biological thing that a woman is going to be the one who who takes care of her children so much so that she leaves her job. Her job is
Uh-huh.
not a priority as much as the man's is to take care of a child. That is not based in a biological fact that women need to do that. It is we are socialized to believe that that is the balance of the household.
I mean, I don't.
And
I would have to
to
disagree with that because
further
even
that,
in uh
well,
even in
the
little, like
thing
let's
that's
say like
hard,
little.
about
Let's
it
talk
is
about a little.
it
Oh
would
gosh.
be it would be really hard to even find like statistical truth in that in the US, like within the US, because we are steeped in patriarchal culture. So even if you tried to do some sort of like, it's like anytime there's a study about, the amount of partners you have and the level of success that you have in relationships, it's really hard to measure because these are all people who, in one way or another, have been affected by purity culture and patriarchal standards. So their emotional response is going to reflect that. So it's the same thing with having a child need to be picked up from school and a mother feeling like it is her duty to do that. We have been steeped in
Mhm.
the expectation that is the case. So we feel emotionally called to do that. We are emotionally affected by that expectation.
I mean, I would have to disagree because like I feel like there's been proof like where they found little towns, like little civilizations that have no patriarchy. That like the men are the providers, like in Brazil and everything, and the women are always caring for the children, even without Western
Brazil
culture or
Brazil is
without patriarchy.
Brazil can
I'm
still
talking about like
experience a
little.
patriarchy.
No, but I'm talking about like people that have not been civilized, that have been in their own, out in the Amazon, no civilization, no like communication with outside world, like the Western world, to know all about these laws and all these rules. Like if you go to these places, they'll find these places, and the women are always the caretaker, and the men are always the providers.
So
Like
that's not
I
completely
just
true. There have been examples of matriarchal cultures where the roles were a little bit more evenly divided. So it's not completely true, but I would agree that that tends to be the case. But that has a lot more to do with, again,
Mhm.
these like statistical trends where men
Well,
are
why are we
stronger
denying
and domineering.
well, I guess I have a question for you because I feel like you're denying that that nature that women have. Sorry, I'm really bad with my words. But I feel like you don't deny that a man can be a woman.
Okay, so not going to touch that. We've actually already been on this loop
Mhm.
3 times now, where we've talked about the
Okay.
biological essentialism that you're doing. And so I think it's probably time for us to put a button on this because we've now gone on this merry-go-round, like I said, like 3 times, where we've had this exact
Yeah.
discussion of you saying, I think you're denying this. And we say, no, we're not. We acknowledge that there's statistical trends, but it's just not universally true of everybody. And you say, oh, okay, I agree with that. And then it comes back around to you going, oh, well, I think
Mhm.
you're denying this. We've done it 3 times. So let's put a button on it and
No, yeah, it was
say
nice
goodnight.
talking to you guys. All right. Good
Cool.
night, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
Brenda. Good
Bye,
night.
Brenda.
Welcome. Bye.
Oof. Oh
Um,
my God. Good Lord.
I will say, for what it's worth, very chill caller. Like disagreeing with everything, didn't raise her voice once. And coming from an emotional woman, per her per her
Yes.
definition.
Yes.
She isn't that crazy? Like, could we've it is so rare that we would ever have a man have exactly that back and forth and disagreements like over and over again and stay at like the same talking level. And Brenda did it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I thought it was a good conversation. I will say calm tone doesn't always tell me because I know last time she was on, she kind of attacked Promise for like rebelling against her family was the vibe. It was like, I know your family
Oh.
and their ministry and like you're rebelling was kind of the tone of the show.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah,
That's so interesting.
and clearly she's
I mean,
transphobic, so that's fun. But I was like, oh my God, that is a
right.
call for a whole other day. I was like, I
Yeah,
don't even want to
I'm
touch that can of worms.
I'm so glad you were like, we're gonna put a button on this. um, and honestly, when I listen to calls like, yeah, someone's monkey a typewriter. Will he said Brenda was awful in a very pleasant way.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. But I kind of like I feel bad for Brenda because I feel like, I mean, she had kids young, and I think that she is put in a situation where she really believes that this is what is keeping her safe and what's giving her the best future, and like her scope for what is possible for her in her life and like what she could actually achieve feels like it is way than it could be. The
Yeah.
fact that she's willing to have conversations like this and debates like this, like she has the capability to do a lot more than what she's putting on her plate right now. And I mean, actually, like I literally don't know Brenda. I have no idea what's on her plate. But I don't know. It just like made me sad that she like had kids young and now believes that the patriarchy is like the only answer. I didn't like we know that's not true, and there's so much for her that's out there.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I'm glad
I hope
she
she
has
keeps
found peace and like happiness with the life that she has. Like that's great. But
yeah.
it's the frustrating thing is like we were saying, where it's like, if you want that for you, that's great. I don't care. Like, if that's what you want
Yeah.
for you, you're not going to get any argument
Amazing.
from me. But like,
Yeah.
it's when you try to say that that is what's good for women, like writ large, like that's the
Mhm.
problem. Because it's like, you don't get to
Mhm.
decide that for other people.
Yeah.
Even if
Yeah.
like 90% of women agreed with her, which I don't think they do at all in America today, at least, like it still wouldn't be justification for forcing people.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
Hey,
Anyway,
we
all
have super
right.
chats. Let's get into it.
Let's get to our super chat.
Hey guys, thanks for watching that last clip on Chewed Gum. You can catch us live Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Central Time. And please tell your Christian friends to give us a call and let us know why they believe in God. You can also support us by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And head over to patreon.com/calltheline.